Jack here, JV of Music and Guitar Lessons. In this Pro Tips we're looking at Jeff Beck's Whammy Bar Blues and how to make your guitar sound a bit more like a slide or steel lap guitar. I'm focusing on a more bluesy, minor approach. For the more out there world music type stuff he does, you can check out my cover of Nadia, I'll put a card up there, or his original version because he does a much better version of me. Okay, if you just want a semi-accurate short version, I'll cover that in the first few minutes of this, and then I'm going to explore 12 licks using each note of the minor pentatonic using fully tabbed out licks in the style of Jeff Beck. On a side note, if you just want the licks by themselves with a tab, I'll do that in a separate video too, again, card up there. I'll put them down in the comments and anything that I reference there as well, and I'll try to remember to put time codes for each section down there too. Anyway, that is more than enough talking, so let's just get into it. Descending the pentatonic, dip each note down and return it to pitch just as you hit the next note. So for the E string, we can do this. From the B to the G strings, it's pretty much the same idea. And just like I did on the last strings, I'm going to miss out this note and go to the next one on the scale. For the G, this note we missed out, what we're going to do is go to the root, so that would be the 7th fret on the D string. Just the same for the next note in the scale. Essentially the same idea in terms of the shape from the D to the A strings. And then for the next two notes on the A string, we want to go to the 8th fret on the E. As a side note, if you're playing the blues note up the octave, you might want to think about resolving to the root because it's the most stable. For the last note on the A string, what I'd suggest doing is bending the bar down, or dipping the bar down, sustaining that dip, and then playing the 5th fret on the E and then raising it. So I'm playing this note, dipping my bar down, sustaining that dip, 5th fret on the E string, release the bar. The last note we've got here is this 8th fret on the E, and we'll just do what we did on this string. So if you played that all the way through, you'd have this. Like I said, a quick and dirty answer just to set you on the right track, but things do change a little bit when you're going up the scale. Dipping into the notes rather than out of them this time, so you pre-dip the bar, hit the string, and then return it to pitch. Dip the bar, hit the string, back up to pitch. So for this note A here, we probably want to resolve to either the 5th, which would be the 7th fret on the A, or the 7th fret on the D for the root. I'd resolve to this fret for the next 3 or 4 notes if we include the blues scale. For the notes on the D string, resolve to the 5th fret on the G. From the G string, I'd resolve to B's 5th fret. On the B, both notes can go up a 4th, so we can get the 5th fret to the 5th fret. And then we can get the 8th to the 8th as well. This note here, you can keep it as itself, or you could resolve it down to the B. And then this final one here, I just pull off back to the 5th fret. So as a rule of thumb, a not totally accurate rule, but one that will work for the purposes of a quick trick style lesson, whammy bar going down after a note, move down the scale, whammy bar pre-dipping and then releasing going into note, go up the scale. The subtle moves will sound much more like a slide, so if you do something, it's going to sound more like a slide. If you do exaggerated movements, you're going to get that over the top 80s glam rock sound. It's a bonus trick, I'm using my fingers, partly for authenticity. I can get a bit more grip and control on the whammy bar. I also find it a bit easier to mute the other strings, it's a bit more intuitive. And I find it easier to get good playing dynamics, which is really a key to getting a good sound using this approach. These basic rules will get you started, but they leave out a lot of potential ideas and licks. However, for the non-quick trick style portion of this tutorial, I'll go through these in much greater depth, with licks for every example. I'm thinking about doing a pro tips style video on Jeff Beck, but looking at like 10 of his playing other than just this one, so let me know if that's something you guys are interested in. From a teaching point of view, I would probably suggest opening a backing track in another window, pausing this video and playing about with some of the ideas as you go along. It's just a bit easier to digest new information that way rather than trying it all out in one go. I made a very minimal A minor backing track especially for this lesson, which I'll link to up there and down in the comments, just if you want something to play over. It might also be worthwhile taking a minute to try out the basics outlined already, but it's totally your call. Before I forget to mention that this one was in fact a requested lesson, something that I'm really open to, so if you've got any suggestions or things you'd like to see, just let me know. First off, I'm going to talk a bit about bar bending techniques and things you'll want to watch out for. You may want to skip ahead a bit depending on how familiar you are with this style of playing, but it seems like the sort of thing I should really dedicate some time to, and I will be referring back to here later on in the lesson. Right, so this guitar has some play in it, and what I mean by that is that the trem bar can go down as well as up. There's only 3 springs in the back, so it's not too much pressure I need to change the pitch. There are 2 basic schools of thought when it comes to keeping a guitar with a whammy bar in tune. The lock it all down approach, like a Floyd Rose, so lock the nut, lock it here and hope for the best, or try to keep it as fluid as possible and hope that the tuning stays in tune once the strings are being properly stretched in. So a roller nut would help here. Failing that, what I tend to do, I don't know if this is an urban myth or not, but it seems to help. When you're changing your strings, just get a graphite pencil and in the nut where the strings go, the little runs, just rub the pencil in there. It seems to help reduce the friction and let the strings slip about and keep the tuning a little bit more consistent. Now, I was trying to think of a way of explaining this, and I think a graph, oddly enough, is the best option. You might be super lucky and find that every move you make with the bar is directly related to the pitch, so if you move down like this, it's going to be the same amount across the strings. If that is the case, you get a nice linear line using pitch and bar movement as our axis. I have a vague notion that Steinberg guitars work like this, but I'm not 100% sure if that's the case, or indeed if any guitar operates in this manner. Any comments below on the subject would be most helpful indeed. Anyway, you'll probably find the bar is a bit more erratic than that. For example, mine generally bends down a semitone really quite quickly and easily, it then needs quite a bit more movement to get it kind of to the next semitone down, to bend down a tone in total. There's less effort required on each string as they get lower as well to move down by a semitone. So if I dip a semitone on the high E, and sustain that dip on my low E, that was probably closer to 4 or 5 semitones, I think. Maybe 4 semitones. Yeah, about there. So this sort of thing is fairly intuitive for me at this point, so long as I've been doing some bar work relatively recently, like I did in my Nadia cover. It's worthwhile making a note of the maximum pitch each string can go up to and also down to. So let's plot this out for this guitar going down. Now there is every chance of string breakage here, so be warned, and I'll put a montage of how many strings I broke doing this video. So hopefully that was a very short, or if I'm really lucky, non-existent montage. With the E string I can maybe go down about 3 semitones, pulling up maybe 1 1/4, something like that. B, that sounds like it's maybe a 4th or a 5th, so about, let's say 6 or 7 semitones. Up a tone, and maybe a quarter. G, that's probably about an octave. It's not really that usable down there because it's pretty flat at that pitch. Going up, just flat up a major 3rd, maybe sort of 4 semitones and 3/4. You can use a tuner here if you want to place the notes a bit more accurately. I'm just doing it by ear for speed. Bonus tip for you there, I suppose. So D. I don't know, it certainly sounds like it's more than an octave to me. I'm going to call it about 15 semitones and hope that's roughly in the right ballpark. If we go up, maybe a sharp flat 3rd. So 1, 2, 3. About 3 semitones up, something like that. A. Yeah, it's going an octave, let's say maybe 15 down. At least an octave. Right, let's just go with that. Going up. It's kind of a sharp flat 3rd, so 3 and a bit semitones up. And then the E. Okay. That sounds a bit like a flat 7 to me, so I'm going to say that's almost 2 octaves. Fantastic for dive bombs, I suppose. And going up. Maybe a kind of sharpened flat 3rd. Now doing this might not help you out, going by intuition might be a much better approach, but at least this way you know the limitations of your own setup. So I've got a bit of a bonus trick here. If you do map them out, you can work out some cool double stops. So for example, if I fret a minor 3rd interval between the D and the G strings,
and pull it up a bit, I can more or less get them to move to major third. So I'm going here, and because they interact differently with the whammy bar, see, so this note, going up a tone, this one, going up a semitone by about the same amount of pressure on the whammy bar. So essentially I can outline different chords with that sort of thing. Don't want to go down that rabbit hole just now. Want to get into the licks. So let's do that because this is too long of a tangent already.
As a side note, if you don't have a whammy bar or simply don't fancy using yours, you can always bend or pre-bend into the note from the one below. So next up, I'm going to go through every interval of the minor pentatonic, looking at both dips into and out of said interval. I'll include the aforementioned licks to show the practical applications as we go, and I've mapped out the intervals for this box in the video for that backing track I mentioned earlier, a bit like that, which may be of some use to you. I'm going to have the tab on screen, so hopefully this will prevent any unnecessary confusion when I'm saying like third or fifth. The tab will be there to clear things up what fret I'm talking about. The lick should work best over an A minor, and there's every possibility I will say third or seventh instead of flat third or flat seventh by mistake. Just to clear it up, it's all flat thirds and flat sevenths using the minor pentatonic.
Dipping into the root. From here, the strongest intervals are the flat third, fifth, and another root. So for context, going up to the flat third, going up to the fifth, and another root. So let's use these in lick number 1. We've got 2 bonus tricks here. First of all, you can let these notes ring into each other like these two here. I'm also playing the note on the B string before returning the bar to pitch. So I'm holding this down instead of returning it and then playing B. I'm sort of holding it down, playing B, and returning them to pitch together. Sounds a bit more like a slide. Also got this little hammer bit at the end. Sorry, on this string. I'm going for a kind of harmonica type vibe. So I'm dipping my whammy bar just a tiny bit. Probably a quarter tone dip more than anything else on the root. And a nice smooth vibrato on that note will just make things sound a bit cool. For some reason with these sorts of ones, moving my body a la Steve Vai seems to help out. I don't know why, it's one of these feeling the music sort of things. Anyway, let's break that down note by note. So, dip the bar, play the root. You probably want to dip the bar about a semitone here. Raising it back to pitch, then immediately, ideally you want to hammer on from nowhere onto the root, up the octave. Then what I'm doing is playing this one again with the pre-dip, so pre-dip the bar, return to pitch. I'm playing the flat third with some vibrato. I'm doing another pre-dip on the root, and this is where instead of turning it to pitch, I hold the bar down, maybe return it to pitch a tiny bit, and play this fifth here, so they return to pitch together. Again, I've got a dip into this root up here, hammer onto the flat third, bit of vibrato, and the aforementioned trill. I'm playing through it without talking all over this time. You can pretty much go to any note when you're going down the scale and dipping out of the root. Just for context, I'll play through all the notes in the scale. So hopefully you can hear they all sound pretty good. There's a lot you can get away with here. So to explain this lick in a bit more depth, what I'm doing is coming out of the root, dipping it down, maybe about a semitone, maybe slightly less. Playing the flat 7 but sustaining this bar dip, releasing it back to pitch, then playing the root. Got the same idea, so I'm playing the root and dipping it down again. This time what I'm doing is playing the major 6th, and with the bar dip this will sound more or less like a minor 6th. I release the bar, and then what I'm playing is the 4th here, with a little bit of vibrato. it's a dip on the root with an octave lower this time. You want to release this at the same time or perhaps slightly before hitting this fifth. Hit the fifth up the octave. Some whammy bar vibrato here will sound good. Dipping a semitone on the E, which on this guitar, as I mentioned before, is about the same as a tone on the B. So I'm holding this bar down, then I pluck the B string and return it to pitch. So I'm getting this kind of melody. So this is the aforementioned bonus trick, and this is a really great way to take use of the whammy bar acting differently on these different strings and really turn it to your advantage. Your guitar might act slightly differently, but a small adjustment will probably sort it out. This lick also outlines a mini chord progression as well. So we've got an A7 for the first bit, D7, back to an A7, and then an E7, leaning into a Mixolydian vibe, which I'm going to call a bonus trick. So don't forget you can use all these ideas to follow chords, a blues progression being the most obvious application. So here is the lick slowly without me speaking all over the top of it. Dipping into the flat third. Going to the root sounds okay, and here we can get a nice little major 6 interval, which works very well over an A minor. If you think about this A minor bar chord, I'm just taking this note here and here, which is why it'll work particularly well over that chord. The root an octave lower sounds pretty good. The flat third dip to the fifth, that's where I reckon it's really at, so let's look using that. So what we're going to do here is pre-dip the bar. You maybe want to be about semitone, but there's a bit of leeway because it's more of a kind of slidey aesthetic we're going for. Then we have return it to pitch, the fifth here, bit of vibrato if you fancy, and then I'm playing the root up here. I'm going out of position just to show you that you can go out of position. Most of the licks will be down here. Slide up to it if you want extra slidiness, or just go up to it, it's up to you. So I'm dipping that, holding the bar down, playing the fifth here, and then when I go back to the flat third here, that's when I raise the bar back up to pitch, and then hammer up to our fifth. Next bit here, I am going to the flat third, and again we're dipping into it, then I'm hammering on the flat five, and I'm doing a little bar bend to bend it up a semitone and make it a perfect fifth. If your bar doesn't go up, just bend the string like you normally would. And let's play that slowly. Dipping out with the flat third, you can get away with the fifth, but the root sounds like more authentic blues to me. I've moved the first flat third out of position. It's usually here. I've moved it here. Again, just to kind of show you that you can move this in different places. So we have this dipping down out of it. Then we go to the root. Got a slide from the flat 7 up to the root. Fourth, root. And then what I'm doing is hitting the flat third, bending down, dipping down I should say, and then root. For a bonus tip, if you want this to sound a bit more Jeff Beck-esque, when you do this little slide, do a tiny micro-tonal whammy bar dip. And that licks slowly. Dipping into the fifth, the root is really the strongest option here. But the flat third below and the flat 7 above sound pretty decent, if a tad cowboy-esque. In this lick, what we'll do is we'll dip into the fifth, maybe by more of a quarter tone than the semitone. You can hammer on this flat 7 for a more haunting sound, or pluck it. Both are good. I really like the hammer, so that's what I'm going with. So we dip the bar, raise it to pitch, play the flat 7th, pre-dip again on the 5th, return it to pitch, and then we have the flat 3rd down to the root. Pre-dipping the bar again for this 5th here, return it to pitch, and we have the root, and the same idea up the octave. So I'm dipping the bar down, playing the 5th, return it to pitch, playing the root, and this time letting the notes ring into each other with a little bit of whammy bar vibrato. So bonus tip, if you do a really big stretch here, up to the 10th fret, it sounds a little bit like a tap note, and there's a real kind of desolate quality to it, quite beautiful really. A secondary bonus trick, it can sound cool if you put the first third up the octave, if you play the 3rd up the octave instead of that flat 7. Instead of, if you want more of a western feeling, that's the one to go for. So here it is slowly. Similarly, dipping out, we can go to the root, the flat 3rd below, and the flat 7 above. Those are probably the safest bets. The root below is kind of cool as well. If you hammer on from nowhere, you get some of those cool desolate vibes we've been talking about all the way through. It seems to be my thing just now, so let's just go with that. For me, the trick here is that it works well when you're holding the dip and let notes kind of bleed into each other and return to pitch at the same time, which I'll outline in this next lick. So I'm hitting the 5th, dipping it down by a semitone. You want to keep that dip held and then play the flat 7. I'd hammer here, up to you. Return the bar to pitch, and the little trill lick we did, and I think it was the first lick, but longer this time. And rather than doing this time, what we'll do is dip the bar down, but hold it. I'm going wild and crazy option here. I'm playing the flat 5. But of course, because I've got the bar dipped down, it's going to sound a bit more like a 4th. I'm going to release the bar and then play the root. Using the 4th to join up what is admittedly, these licks won't be the best because their kind of main purpose is to show up what notes you can use and safely move with a whammy bar. Anyway, so we go to that, and then we're going to our 5th again, dipping down. While it's still down, I'm going to play this flat 3rd, return them to pitch, then I'm going to play the 5th again, dip it down again, and then just when I go to play the root, I'm going to stop holding down this flat 3rd with my finger, return them to pitch, and a little bit of vibrato there. So we're playing the 5th, dip it down, keep the bar held, play the flat 3rd, let them ring together, return to pitch. It might sound a bit messy slow, but it should work at slightly quicker speed. You keep that flat 3rd held down, then dip the 5th, hold the dip, let go of the 3rd with your left hand, and play the root at the same time. Let them ring and return to pitch. So here it is. Dipping into the 4th, the root, and the 5th are, as usual, the safest. The 3rd above sounds quite cool as well, but it's starting to get a bit less bluesy here. So this lick, what I'm doing is dipping the bar, maybe like a quarter tone or something, and then really quite quickly letting it back up. I'm playing the root. So a really subtle one there. Do the same thing again, the pre-dip, play the note, then I'm playing the 5th. Same idea, pre-dip on that 4th to pitch, then flat 5. Then I'm doing it again, the dip, return to pitch, and then I'm playing that flat 3rd up the octave, pulling off to the root. As a bonus trick, what you can do, you'll notice I've put some notes in brackets there, so you can play these as little dyads or triads if you want little chords. So if I did that, you would have Whether you prefer that sound or the other one is up to you, and I'll just play it without the dyads slowly as well now. We get the root and the fifth for the best sound. First off, the root and the fifth. Fifth up the octave's okay. You can get away with the flat third up the octave, or the flat third below is probably a little bit better. Again, this is one of the ones where if you bend it down, sustain the bend, play the note, then bend it back up to pitch, you get a slightly more pleasing, authentic bluesy slide. So for this lick, what I'm doing is playing the fourth and dipping it down, maybe like a microtone rather than a full semitone. I'm holding the bar down, playing this fifth, and then kind of return it to pitch as I just before I hit the root there. Same idea again, so dipping the fourth, playing it, dipping it, playing the root this time. The bar's still down a little bit and returning it to pitch when I play the fifth up here. Then we've got quite a cool bit, so I'm playing the fourth again, dipping it down. This time you probably want to hit a semitone, pulling off to the flat third, which will sound more or less like the major second because we've got the bar held down. Then I'm going to play this note here, which is a root, return it to pitch, and then I've got this really cool little dyad thing, so I'm playing the, what would it be, the fifth and the flat third. I'm doing a little bar dip when I play them. So dipping the bar, playing the notes, bar back up to pitch, and then I'm just pulling off the 8th fret, or even just strumming it again. So we get 5 and 5. And if I play that slowly, little bit of vibrato on that last bit if you want as well. Now in all fairness, I don't think Jeff Beck ever really does that move, but I happened across it when I was coming up with these licks and thought it would be a really cool trick just to share. Dipping into the flat 5, it's pretty dissonant, so it'll give us some more options, although it will sound a bit more like a brief flirtation with jazz than blues. Yeah, so going, dipping into it, we can go to the root, we can go flat third, the fourth, you can get away with the sixth, particularly if you want a diminished sound. And to be fair, even the flat 7 can work too. But again, they've all got a kind of slightly alarming dissonant vibe to them. But this lick, I am pre-dipping the bar, playing the flat 5. So essentially, I'm going for a bit of semitone, so you're more or less getting the fourth, bringing it up to pitch, then I'm playing the fifth, doing the same thing again, dipping the bar, playing the flat 5, back to pitch, this time playing the fourth, and again, dip the bar, flat 5, back to pitch, and root. Then what I'm going to do is a little hammer from the flat 7 to the root, flat third, and then we're doing a pre-dip and kind of a hammer on that flat 5. You can play the note if that's easier. Then we get the 6th here, the major 6th, back to the root. And then with this note here, the flat third, in an ideal world, what you really want to do is bend into it, right? Dip in, and then pull it slightly sharp, either with the bar or with your finger. So it's not, I'm not going up a semitone, it's like a quarter tone thing again. So it just adds a bit more of that kind of authentic bluesy flavour to it. As I said, this is a kind of maybe the jazz side of blues. In all honesty, it would probably work better over a dominant 7 than minor, but what are you going to do? So let's do that one slowly as well. Help if I played the right note, wouldn't it? Let's go dip first and then in. Dipping out of the flat 5, we have the root, flat 3rd, and flat 7th. I'd probably better than going to the 4th or the 5th. They sound a little bit like you've made a mistake. It's okay, but you kind of want to go somewhere after it, at least I think anyway. So in this lick we start off with flat 5, and we dip it down a tad, return it back to pitch, pretty much when you play this flat 3rd, and then I'm just going between them, bringing into each other, that real kind of dissonance you get from those two. Then we have another flat 5 dip, release on the root up here, then a little twiddle just to join up the next parts, and again, flat 5 dip, release it, and again we've got another little twiddle thing here, flat 7, that there, and then what I'm doing is playing the flat 5 again, but I've moved it to this position because it's a lot easier to play on my fingers anyway. So I'm dipping this down, sustaining the dip a little bit over the flat 3rd, maybe starting to return it to pitch, and then returning it to pitch on the root. Then we have a hammer, flat 7 to root, and then again we have flat 5 down the octave, dropping it down, holding the bar down a little bit for the flat 3rd, raising it up to pitch, just in time to get to the root, and slowly. The flat 7's dipping into the old favourites of the root, and the 5th will work best. Flat 3rd can be okay too, in certain contexts I suppose. So we're dipping into the flat 7 for this lick, and then hammering to the root, doing another dip into the flat 7, and then hammering it on the 5th. I'm doing a hammer from nowhere, you can do whatever you want there. I'm then going to the 5th, hammering on to the major 6th for that Dorian sound, and then going up to that flat 7. You can either slide or hammer, whatever you prefer. Then we're doing a dip and playing that flat 7, return it to pitch, and then bending it up a tone. Now we've not really done much bending in this because with the bar it seems slightly pointless to lean on it too much, but I just want to show that you can integrate it quite easily into these ideas. After that we have another dip, as you would expect, on the flat 7, down to our 5th, dip again on the flat 7th, back up to pitch, and then I'm ending on that flat 3rd. And slowly let's go through that one. Yeah, so just a quick note there, if you want to add in hammers or you want to pick the notes, it's totally up to you, and also use these licks just as a basis, as a guideline. Take the rules, run with them, and make them your own. Okay, so to round up the blues scale, and bear in mind you could use this with other things, you could use it with the major pentatonic, with Dorian, with Mixolydian, with Mixodorian and mixing the major and minor together. There's going to be far too long to cover those in this topic, so that's why I'm just sticking with the minor pentatonic, with the blues note I suppose. So the final note and final thing we're looking at is going out of the flat 7. So we can go to the 5th, and particularly if you keep the bar down, play the 5th, then return, because we get that really nice flat 7 to flat 5 move. I think that's really cool anyway. The others sound nice, but they've got a bit more of an 80s or vibe feel to them other than blues. The flat 3rd's alright too, and it looks like we've got a flat 7 which we're dipping out of and going to the 5th, just like I'd mentioned at the start. We have a fourth and a root played quite quickly together. Then I've got the flat third here and I'm doing two little dips. So, like that, like a pre-dip like we've been doing through the lesson. Then got the root and a fifth. Again, one of those quick little movements. You might want to, if you're using your fingers, you might want to use a finger for that note and thumb for there. You might want to use thumb for both. You might be using a pick, I don't know. So slide up from the flat 7 to the root. And then we've got some more dipping going on. We got the flat 7 and we're going to dip that down. We're going to hold the dip. We're going to play the flat 5. Sort of start to return it to pitch. And then when we hit the third here, that's when we return it to pitch. Sliding all the way up from the third to our fifth. And I've gone out of position here just to highlight that you can move this all over, and it's a really good way of joining up pentatonic boxes. Makes it feel a lot more fluid and natural. Similar to what we've done before, going between a few notes and some vibrato on here, either with the fingers or the trem bar. It's going to give you that nice kind of mimicking slide thing that I've been going for. Got our final little bit here. I am on the flat 7, we dive out of it, and then we finish up on the third, flat third I should say, with a nice little bit of vibrato. If you have been counting how many times I've said third or seventh without flat in front, please do let me know, because if I've not missed any of them out, I'll be thoroughly impressed with myself. But I suspect I will have messed up for here and there. Anyway, let's do that one slowly, just for good measure. So for a final bonus tip here, if you want this even smoother at the end, instead of going to this note, bring your hand over and tap it. So I believe, yeah, we'd be tapping the 17th fret. So the hard part here is to gauge when you should tap it in terms of when you're releasing the bar. So we bring the bar down. That sounded about right to me. So I'm tapping it with the bar still down, which is quite tricky to do because I'm having to control it with my little finger there. But you get this really nice boom, kind of really slidey thing. Anyway, that is a final bonus tip for those of you that stuck around. Thanks for that.
This particular lesson actually started off life as a quick tricks, but rapidly just grew far beyond control in a very short space of time, spawning this kind of juggernaut of a video, or for my channel anyway. So like I said, I was thinking of looking at other areas of Jeff Beck's playing and the pro tips of it, like my Ingve or George Lynch one, card up there. So if you're into that, let me know and I'll see what I can do. But cool, yeah, thanks if you're still watching. Leave me a comment like wubble up a dub dub or something just to see how many people are stuck about. That'll be kind of interesting. But yeah, if this has been up your street, do let me know. Check out some of the other stuff I've done. Subscribe, share and enable notifications with that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.